you guys. How are you? Hola, everyone. I hope everyone's doing great and you had a wonderful weekend. So I wanted to come by here while I'm exporting a file, just a video training that I'm doing for my clients. I wanted to come by here and say hello and just share a little bit of my story. Let me just take a second right now to share this video on my private Facebook group and in my Facebook page. So give me 1 second for this. So anyways, I wanted to come here today and talk about, you know, a little bit about who I am and what my story is, because I think that our stories are probably the most important things in our businesses and our lives and everything. I mean, I think that, wait, okay, done with the distractions. And by the way, if you're watching me live, please give me a comment, leave me a comment, just so I know that who's in here and so that you can kind of give me a little bit of strength here, because I'm kind of getting used to doing these live videos and still kind of all over the place. But anyways, so I wanted to come by here and tell you a little bit about my story, because I believe that there's nothing more powerful in the world than our stories, and there's nothing more powerful in the world than just sharing who we are as people. And hey, Jade, aloha. Wonderful to see you here. So I believe that there's nothing more powerful than just sharing from the heart and being able to let others know about who we are and why like look for ways to really connect with people genuinely, right? So my story is kind of different than what most of you guys probably have heard or that what's considered normal, I guess. So I grew up everywhere. I grew up living around the whole world. My dad used to work in a multinational company, and they moved us around everywhere. About every couple of years, I've lived in Brazil, in Spain, in India, in Venezuela, which is where I'm originally from, and in the US, obviously, right now. And then I went to college here as well. And even though I grew up living everywhere, I feel like, I was very rooted to my country and to my origins and to who I am as a person and to my family. So I was a very generally stable person, even though I had a very unstable life, you would say. I wouldn't say it was completely unstable, because it was a ton of fun moving around and meeting so many people and getting to connect with people on different levels, different stories, and, with all these very varied backgrounds. I mean, like when I lived in Spain, I was very little, but I went to a private school in Spain, and and this is kind of what the company that my dad used to work on, what they did. They would just place us in schools. And there was this school full of super rich people. And then we lived in India, and obviously there were so many contrasts there, and working and connecting with people that were really had nothing. So, I mean, having that very, varied experience, for lack of a better word, is very interesting, right? And very enriching, I would say. So anyways, that's kind of my story of how I grew up. Now I finished, I graduated from high school in Venezuela, and I came to the US to study advertising. And it's funny because I was so clear about what I wanted when I went to college. I mean, I was very clear. I always said, you know what, I'm going to do advertising for a couple of years. I'm going to graduate from advertising. I'm going to go to an ad agency, one of the best ad agencies in the world, and say hello, please, if you're signing up, just so that I know that you're there and you're listening to me. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the best ad agency in the world and then get a couple of years of experience, and that's it. And I'm quitting. I'm, putting up my own little boutique agency, and that's what I wanted to do. Super clear. So that's exactly what I did. I've always been very, very driven as a person in general. Since I was in college, I knew, like, I'm going to go and work to the best ad agency in the world if possible. And that's what I want. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's it. And that's what I did. So I worked at Leo Burnett, which is one of the biggest ad agencies ever. And I worked there for a couple of years, and I ended up quitting, of course, and launching my own business. Now, what I didn't know was going to end up happening, of course, is that I didn't end up working in advertising. I mean, I loved advertising. Advertising is really interesting. It's very fast paced, but it wasn't for me. And my creativity was a little bit different, and I just evolved somewhere else. So what ended up happening is I started working in branding and doing branding for other people, and it started simple with working. I worked with Universal Music Records, or Universal Music Latino, working and creating album covers for them and things like that, and working and doing websites for a lot of artists. My husband is a singer, so I did his branding. It kind of slowly started moving into working with all of these different artists and TV personalities, and then just started expanding into businesses, entrepreneurs, small business owners, kind of the same thing, all of them. But anyways, just different types of businesses and restaurants and things like that. So when I quit my job in advertising, it was because basically I was making more money freelancing than working at the agency on one hand. And then the other one, I always knew that I wanted to be the owner of my time. And if this is something that you feel or have felt, give me a 1 in the comments just so that I can see where you guys are at. But anyways, I always knew that I wanted to be completely in control of my time, right? And wanted to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to have kids and I'm going to be able to do my own thing and not have to worry about having to keep a schedule at an office or anything like that. So when I started working on my own in branding, that's what I was doing, and I was super excited about it. And then there got a point where I said, okay, I want to do an MBA, not because it's going to get me a better job somewhere else, but because I want to get better at what I'm doing. I want to learn about business. I mean, I went to school for advertising and design. Yeah, I know that you can relate, right? That's what we all want, to have that control over our time. So I went to school for advertising and design, not for business. I didn't know anything about business. So I really wanted to make sure that I was nailing it. And for me, it was extremely important to start learning these things and start learning about business. And what was great about it is that honestly, I did my MBA 100% for me, but it was so helpful for my clients, and so much of what I do today for my clients comes from the things that I experienced and I learned from my MBA. So anyways, I had my business in Venezuela. I did that MBA. Everything was pretty good. I had a quite successful business. It wasn't like crazy successful, but it was pretty good. I had a very stable business where I had clients constantly coming in, constantly month after month, because of referrals basically, and had other sources of income, and everything was pretty good. But I was playing extremely small, and I'll get into that in a second. I was extremely comfortable where I was. I didn't have to do anything for marketing, zero marketing at all. It was just kind of referrals, and that was it, right? And me playing small, only, basically all going in all head and heart into my husband's career as well, and helping him with what he was doing, and not really focusing or ever even thinking about the possibility that I could, as an entrepreneur or as a person, be bigger than whatever I was doing. For me, it was about like being this behind the scenes person, where I didn't need to have anybody look at me or what I was doing or anything, right? I was just doing my thing quietly, and that was it. So fast forward to a couple of years ago, we decided to move to the US. We had this kind of opportunity. We had our work visa, everything, and we were like, okay, we're leaving. We're going to the US. And it was extremely tough. Well, at first, let me kind of tell you the whole story. We came for a few months only, and we're going to go back to Venezuela. That was our plan. And then it just kind of kept on extending. So, we're going to go back in December. And then it was just like, well, it doesn't make sense going back in December. If our family's going to come here for, Christmas, let's just stay. Then it was just this thing that just kept on extending. And it was about March or April of last year when we made the absolute decision. We're leaving. We're leaving Venezuela and we're staying in the US. We're living in the US. That's it. We're not going back. So that was I can't tell you how tough that was, because it really meant that I was going to have to get out of my comfort zone. And what I have learned now, looking back at the last year and a half that I've had, is that leaving your comfort zone is the scariest thing in the world, but it's also where growth happens, 100%. So, of course, I was absolutely terrified because I had built a very local business based on referrals or based on, word of mouth, whatever you want to call it. But that was it. I was doing nothing to really put myself out there and to really get seen. And if you relate, give me, some sort of comment about this if you know what I'm talking about. But, I was playing super small. Again, like I was saying before, I never thought that it could ever be about me, right? My husband is this famous singer. It was always about him. And this is by no way me resenting him or anything like that. I love what he does and I'm super passionate about his career. I just thought that he was a star. I didn't have to be a star at all. So, okay, it exported. Anyways, so for me, making that decision of, okay, I need to make it work here, it meant that I had to raise my voice and become somebody that was worth listening to somehow. That's not simple for us to do because we always doubt ourselves so much and think that we're not worth it, or think that not literally we're thinking like, oh, I'm not worth it, but we're thinking that why should people listen to me? Why should my voice really matter? I'm just me, right? Like I'm really like, what is so special about me, or what is so different about me? So what I have found that is really important is that in that process of me having to launch my business, take it online, where I had even though I had been doing websites for years, what I had to learn in this past year and a half was very different from what I was doing, because I didn't know about really online marketing, right? And I could create websites and have them beautifully designed, but there wasn't really any strategy behind that, or any marketing behind that, or any, I don't know, anything like that involved, when I had to relaunch my business here in the US, I had to learn about these things because I understood that my market was online. I didn't want it to be a Miami-based business. I didn't want what happened to me by moving to happen ever again, right? So I said, okay, I need to figure this out and really change the way that I was doing business and the way that I was doing my strategy. So it meant for me really putting myself out there. And while I don't do a lot of video, well, I'm going to be doing a lot of video now because I decided to go for it. It really felt terrifying to me, having to put myself out there for the world to see who I was, and for the world to see what I was doing and my work. I mean, especially when you're a creative, it feels very kind of vulnerable to be judged for the work that you're doing and the things that you're putting out there. But beyond that, I think that probably a lot of us go through this, and a lot of us feel this way, where we're starting a business and we're kind of starting this journey as entrepreneurs, and we have so many doubts about our abilities and our capacities, and doubts about like this imposter syndrome, right? Again, kind of keeps on coming back. This thing of, am I really really people are going to pay me to do this? Is it worth it for them? So I really went through a very difficult period emotionally for that. And I'm very lucky. Well, I wouldn't say lucky, actually. Luck has nothing to do with it, probably. I have worked my butt off to get to where I am in my business. And I'm fortunate and I'm grateful that I have progressed so much. But it's not been easy emotionally to get to where I am. And I've talked about this before, and I've kind of shared about it before as well. But it has taken a lot for me to kind of get to where I am. And it has been with me sacrificing a lot. And I came to a very big realization that over the weekend, actually, that, even though I have done a lot of great things in the past year and a half, and I've grown my business from 5